Good evening and welcome back to 31 Horror Nights. It's October 18th and tonight's movie is Antrum. Now, when I was trying to come up with a list of movies to watch this month, one thing I did was that I looked at the Wikipedia category for found footage movies, and I saw this, I registered that there was a movie called Antrum on the list, but I wasn't really drawn to it. But then later I saw an article that was why Antrum is the best found footage movie to blah blah blah, and I was like, wait a minute. So I put it on the list. The plot of Antrum is that there is this old movie from, I think, the 70s or 60s, something in there, called Antrum. And apparently, if you see the movie, you die. And the movie has, been lost for years, but these people think they found it, and they want to, I don't know what they want to do. Do they want to, distribute Antrum? Do they want to find it? Do they want to prove that it doesn't kill people? But it's basically The Ring, except instead of a videotape, it's an old movie. And apparently in the movie, it's a boy and girl. They say boy and girl, but it looks like a little boy and his mom. But a boy and girl, they go into the woods because their dog died and they start digging to hell, which I'm not exactly sure how those dots connect. But anyway, I believe that this movie is divided into two parts. The first part is the documentary about it, and the second part is the movie Antrum. Or it might not be. I've been wrong before in these little preamble parts. This has been one of the movies I've been looking forward to more to watch because it was a very interesting idea, and I'd really like to see how this pans out. So I'm going to go watch Antrum and hopefully not die. I watched Antrum, and I would think that overall this is a pretty good horror movie. I'm giving this an 8 out of 10. I realize that it's probably not fully apt to call this found footage, even though it is a movie that was found, even though it was thought to be lost, but it's more like a mockumentary book ending an indie horror movie. I was kind of under the impression that this was a short film, maybe 30 minutes or something, and the rest of the movie would be them discussing it, discussing how it might be killing people, maybe even trying to track down the people who made the movie, but that's not really the case. It's this 5 or 6 minute preamble, the movie, and then the rest of the mockumentary is in the credits for a few minutes. I kind of questioned the reason why they did the mockumentary angle at all, if it was just going to be a quick little thing at the beginning and end. But I guess it doesn't really take away from anything. So for the rest of this review, pretty much I'm just going to be talking about the Antrum, the movie within the movie. It follows these two, I guess that they're both supposed to be minors. We've got an older sister and a younger brother. The older sister looks like she's in her 20s. I'm guessing she's supposed to be a teenager or something. And the kid, the boy, Nathan, he's very young. He's probably less than 10. I'm bad at gauging ages. So anyway, he and his sister, who I believe is named Orly, they go into the woods that are supposedly the woods where Satan landed when he fell from heaven. And they're going to go there, and they're going to dig to hell so that they can find save the soul of their dead dog. Now, one thing that this movie does is that it adds those little subliminal messages types of things. I saw over and over this little symbol kept appearing, and a lot of times there will be this very, very transparent image over the entire screen, something you can't really see but you know it's there. And one thing they did that I thought was pretty clever was that you think it's fading to black, but really it's just an extremely underexposed image of a demon. And there's a point where there's a really long thing of what looks like black, but then you start to see the figure sort of move a little bit. I also saw little flashes of text. This is all stuff that's been used in other horror movies, but in this one it's very intentional to sort of create an uneasy atmosphere. And that is something I will give this movie. This movie is very creepy and spooky. There's not really any jump scares at all in this movie. It's more just the slow building dread of subliminal messages and little touches along the way. This movie also plays a lot on it's not as much what you do see as much as what you don't see. That's what's really supposed to be scaring you. The two main actors do a very good job. The older sister, she does really well, and the kid does a great job too. There's a lot of points where he will stop in his tracks and I think look directly at the camera. And I'm not sure if that's supposed to be intentional, but considering what type of this movie is, I think that is supposed to be intentional. Just look, a demon, and then he looks directly at the camera. The movie is also divided into separate parts because, like, sometimes it will cut to a book and the book will turn to the next page and then it will say, I assume, some Latin word, and it will be like levels, level 1, level 2, level 3, and that's supposed to represent the levels of hell. I do have to say that they hit the nail on the head when it comes to creating the atmosphere. This feels like a cursed movie. There are also things, canonically, they say, like, someone, like, spliced in other footage, and I think it's supposed to be footage of, like, people getting murdered. They don't really show you that much for you to, like, form a concrete explanation as to what you're watching. So while I do think that the movie within the movie, Antrum, is done pretty well, I would have preferred if they had... I feel like I'm starting to just get the unrealistic expectations that every found footage movie should be like butterfly kisses. But no, it's like, I think it would have been really interesting if like the people making this faux documentary had like try to track down the people behind the movie, like who directed it, who made it. The credits, they all look like they're in like Russian Cyrillic alphabet. I think that's what it's called. And they apparently they translate them. And I wish that the people behind it would try to track down who made this movie, because I think that would have been interesting. But as is, this is still a very well done like art piece of like trying to create the creepiest, most eerie, unnerving film possible. If you want a horror movie that relies on less on surprise and danger and gross outs and more on just like the slow creeping terror, Antrum is a really good pick for that. I thought that overall this movie worked pretty well. It's not quite what I was anticipating, but it's still pretty good. Okay, now I want to go into some spoilers. Now, one thing that becomes clear right around like halfway through the movie is that the older sister doesn't believe in what's happening. Because she, there's the thing where she tries to plant the dog's collar so that the brother can find it, and then he could say, ooh, we saved the soul of Maxine, which was the name of the dog. But things start happening that make you question if this is actually fake, which is very weird because she fully admits to have making this entire thing up. She wrote the book. She made up the person that she said gave them the book. She made up the ritual. She faked everything to try to make her little brother feel better about this because apparently he was having nightmares about it. I think I would question the wisdom of trying to cure your little brother's nightmares by leading him to believe that you're gonna dig a hole to hell, but whatever. But things go downhill when they come across this like shack with these two men in it, and they have this giant like it looks like the place that they sacrifice people. There was this old sacrificial method called, I think it was the Iron Bull, where they would put the person getting executed into it and they would basically just cook them alive, except instead of the bull, it was like a goat. And this thing looks gnarly. This is an amazing prop. It's like a big goat with these horns and hands and sending cross legs. And it also has a giant penis, because of course it does. And you see these two men that they look very crazy and dangerous, and that's the point where the older sister decides, okay, the jig is up, we need to get out of here. And they try to get out of here, but the brother keeps saying, like, no, we need to stay, we need to save Maxine. And then eventually she comes clean, but then he says, I don't understand what you mean. I talked to Ike. Ike was the name of the person that she said gave her the book, and she said, I made Ike up. And then he talked about how no, he was like behind the diner where she said she found him, and there was this big hand like slowly beckoning him behind the dumpster. And you never get a good look at any of the demons in this movie, but you see like blurry looks. They're like, they seem to be really tall. I think they're just painted in full black body paint, which is questionable, but not necessarily something that you need to really hone in on, because you never like see their faces. But like then they start hunting them down, and then the son seems to have like a happy ending, because even though he almost dies, he almost gets killed by the two people with the giant metal goat, he saves this husky that got caught in a bear trap, and I think that's supposed to represent him letting go of the spirit of his dead dog. But the daughter is just going insane. She starts seeing all these demons, and they're like trapping her in the tent. And the last part of the movie is him coming back, and it's implied, because she found a gun earlier in the movie, and it's implied that she's so scared that when he like opens the tent, she shoots him, but that's never really shown. And then it shows at the very end an interesting thing. I think what they were trying to do is set the viewers at ease, because they were talking about, like, they showed like all the subliminal things in the movie, and like the symbols, and like what they represent historically, like possible explanations for as to how this movie could affect people so much. They don't outright say that this movie isn't cursed, but Obviously, it's not, but they just sort of leave it open-ended as to creating other explanations as to what happened. Antrum is an interesting specimen. I can't think of a lot of movies like it. When it comes to format, it's different than I was expecting. I was expecting something a lot more like Butterfly Kisses, but this is it's sort of doing its own thing, somewhere in between a traditional movie and a mockumentary. And if nothing else, it's very unique. But I will say it's also very creepy and spooky. It's free on Amazon Prime, so if you ever feel compelled to check out the deadliest film ever made, it's waiting for you for free. Alright, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Hopefully still alive, but tomorrow.